Best available fare starting at 7,000 euros. No, that's not going to happen. I just don't get it. It seems so unfair to me, and I feel like the airlines are allowed to, like, I wanted to use the F word, but I'm just going to say they're allowed to mess with us in a way that we aren't allowed to mess with them. It is Sunday, February 19th, 2023, and on this week's edition of Sunday Sofa Time, we're talking about ridiculous airline prices and me working for Celebrity Cruises. Yes, it is a double whammy Sofa Time edition today. I'm glad you're here. If you're new here, I'm Morgan from the Very Unofficial Travel Guides. I travel all around the world to popular and not so popular tourist destinations to give you a very honest, unofficial look at what it was like to be there. If you like stories about crazy things happening while traveling, you might also want to check out my book. It's called Getting Stitches on a Cruise Ship, available on Amazon now. And because we've got two things to talk about in this episode, or two things I want to discuss with you, I'm just going to get right into it. The first one is our flight to Miami for our Transatlantic cruise, which is coming up on March 9th. To catch you up, we booked the Symphony of the Seas, which is cruising from Miami to Barcelona with a couple stops along the way. It's our second transatlantic cruise ever. We've only done one before on the Epic, and it was almost the same route, but took a couple more days. We're really looking forward to another transatlantic journey. Also looking forward to the Symphony. Now that we've been on, or I've been on the Harmony, we've been on the Wonder, and we had a great time on the Wonder. I just can't imagine that we're not gonna like the Symphony, but it will be interesting to compare. And of course, if you subscribe here to the channel, when those videos go online and I start showing you the shows and the food and the cabin and all that, you will be able to form your own opinion as well. And remember, these are always just my opinions. I don't just look for the good things. If there are bad things, you know I'm going to tell you about it too. And because a transatlantic cruise starts in one place and ends someplace very different, Miami and Barcelona, we only need a one-way flight to Miami. We were really excited that the price of this cruise was very affordable for a 12-night cruise. And we thought, okay, well, this is going to be a pretty inexpensive trip.
Not the case.
We started looking for one-way flights to Florida and realized one-way flights at the moment are super expensive. It's just like if you cruise solo on a cruise ship, they can charge you all these extra fares to sort of compensate for only one person being in the cabin. For some reason, when you book a one-way flight to the USA, at least from Germany, not only is it not half the price of a round trip, but it's way more than the price of a round trip, which makes, I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. This is not Morgan approved. So after I realized, okay, this is gonna be a problem, I went to social media to ask a lot of you if anybody has some experience, some special tips and trips.
Tip.
If anybody has some special tips or tricks, what is the best thing to do in this situation? And I have to say, I hope this doesn't sound mean, but some people suggested that I look for flights on Expedia, and other people were saying that I should look for flights on Kayak. And first of all, you know, thank you for making a suggestion, but I was a little bit surprised that it seemed like some people thought I was just asking, how do you book a flight? I have done a little bit of traveling. I do know just in general how to book a flight. And I know how to book a one-way flight. I just didn't know if there were any sort of hacks that you could use in order to get around this huge extra price for just flying one way from Hamburg to Miami. Some of the suggestions were things that we also tried or wanted to try, and there's something really different about the wording on the website, I guess, for us here in Germany or in Europe compared to the USA. So let me head back to my computer and I'm going to show you the process that we went through. So here we are on the Air France website. I like to use Air France and KLM because I have a lot of miles and a little bit of status at Flying Blue, which is the frequent flyer system that they use. And I'm trying to get my status up to silver again because that has a lot of benefits with it. So this is where I started. I already put in here round trip. Hamburg to Miami, leaving 6th of March. So we have a couple of days before the cruise leaves on the 9th. And I put in the return date as March 21st. That is the last day of the cruise. And the thing is, we don't need the flight back from Miami because we're ending in Barcelona. But just to look at the prices, we'll do it this way. Search for flights. So we can see here the least expensive flight is, it's one of these stupid things where 26 hours. I'm not going to do that. But if we scroll back up here, there are some for... Let's just go with this one. This is a pretty nice itinerary because we don't have to get to the airport so early. Have 2 hours 50 to connect in Paris, which is very comfortable. I'm just going to go for it. Taking the standard fare so we can check in a bag. Looking at the return flight. And like I said, this doesn't really make a difference because we wouldn't be using it. But this one... leaving Miami later in the afternoon, so we have a nice day with a 1 hour connection in Amsterdam, which probably wouldn't work, but we'll just click on this one anyways, or wait, no, this one's better. All right, we'll go for this one, standard. And there you can see, we could fly to Miami and back, round trip, with pretty good flights for 606 euros. Like I said, we don't need to do that. And many people were suggesting, well, just book a round trip flight and then don't use the flight back. But if we go here to trip details and fare conditions, there's something that you need to know. It says here, ticket use. The fare is applicable for a ticket used fully in sequential order for the specified journey and on the specified dates. As outlined in the special conditions ticket use section, if you plan to skip a flight that is part of your itinerary and only take the other flights, the ticket price will be recalculated and you will be charged with the fare difference. So that's why, at least for us here in Germany, I don't know if this is just Germany, maybe it's actually everybody and people don't get caught. I don't know, but this is why we didn't do that, because we don't want to be slammed then with the price of just a one-way. And since we're here looking at flights and prices, let's check that out, shall we? I'm back here on the front page, going to go with one-way, 6th of March, Hamburg to Miami. Remember, round trip was, what was it, like 607 euros? However, a one-way is twice as much. Instead of it being half, because you're only using half of the service, they make it twice as much, which is, of course, really annoying when you consider that if you can't use the second flight, like if you get sick or something, or if you don't make it to the airport, they're not required to refund, but if you choose not to do it, then they can charge you more. That's not cool. All right. A lot of people were also suggesting do multi-city back from Barcelona, and this is really going to surprise you. Check this out. We do multi-city, Hamburg to Miami on the 6th of March, departing from, is it in here someplace because I was looking for it? No. Barcelona to Hamburg on the 21st of March. Check this out. Best available fare starting at 7,000 euros. No, that's not going to happen. I just don't get it. It seems so unfair to me, and I feel like the airlines are allowed to, like, I wanted to use the F word, but I'm just going to say they're allowed to mess with us in a way that we aren't allowed to mess with them. So we ended up looking for just the cheapest normal price one-way flight to Miami, and we ended up getting it with LOT, Polish Airlines. Shout out to my Polish friends out there. We're coming to visit. Yeah, this is an airlines I have zero experience with. We'll be flying from Hamburg to Warsaw. Am I saying that right in English? In Germany, we call it Warschau. I think you say Warsaw. We have 3 hours and 40 minutes to transfer there, and then we're flying directly from Warsaw to Miami. And the airline, the passenger setup inside the plane is 3 and 3, so it's gonna be interesting. If you have any experience with LOT Airlines, especially international flights with them, please let us know how it was in the comments below. And in the end, even for that flight, we still paid over 600 euros a person, when we could have flown round trip for 607 with Air France. So yeah, for me, this is one reason to not do a transatlantic again, because this is just not cute. I am not okay with paying that much extra to get less from a company. It makes no sense to me. One of the options we were thinking of is booking our round trip sometime in the fall and then doing another transatlantic back over to Miami. But it's tough for us to plan that far in advance with something this important, sort of. And because Marcus doesn't have an American passport, it would be tricky for him to book a flight with more than 3 months in between. Of course, he would be able to, with the cruise booked, he would be able to prove he's leaving the country again, but somebody from outside the US is not allowed to stay there for longer than 3 months without a special kind of visa, and they're not going to give it to him just because he has a cruise. I guess we could get married, but that's a topic for a different video. So that's the update with this whole flight situation. We actually still haven't booked our flight from Barcelona back to Hamburg. We better do that pretty soon, because we're coming up on the month date, so better get on that. If that also costs 600 euros,
I'm gonna scream.
And now I want to tell you about this opportunity to work with Celebrity Cruises for me right after this commercial break. Did you get one? What was it about? Write it in the comments below. Okay, I have never officially worked on a cruise ship. You know, a lot of the work that I do is traveling, and a lot of the traveling I do is on cruise ships, but I've never actually been like paid by a cruise company to do what I do or to do anything else on board. But just recently, I was scrolling through Instagram and I found this post on the Celebrity Cruises Entertainment Instagram. It says they're looking for enrichment speakers who are destination experts, which I would say I'm not necessarily. Naturalists, definitely not. Authors, oh, that's me. Sports pros, not that. Historians, definitely not that, and more. And when I went to the website, it says they're also looking for people who are like in sort of a special interest segment. And so I thought, you know, especially after doing the SofaTime live event that I did last month in Orlando at the Margaritaville Resort, where I had like some really awesome live people sitting there, and the sort of speech that I did before I sat down to record the video, which only the people who were there got to see, that almost was like a talk in a way, because I explained how I started making these SofaTime videos, and I explained sort of the process of what I do to get it set up before I make it happen. And if you look at the first chapter of my book, Getting Stitches on a Cruise Ship, that is basically kind of a constructed speech about what it's like to make your living creating social media content. And not only that, but it's also related to the cruise industry. So when I saw this and read through what they're looking for, I just thought,
this is kind of something that I could do.
And I even went as far as starting to fill out the application process, and where I kind of ran into a roadblock, and maybe this is just a motivational roadblock, but they wanted the people they're looking for not only need to be experienced speakers, which in a way I am, but they also wanted people who have like 3 talks already set up, which I definitely do not. But I So I stopped the application process and I wrote to the information mail. And let me just read to you what it is I wrote to them. Hello from Hamburg, Germany. I'm Morgan from the Very Unofficial Travel Guides. I've been producing this YouTube channel for several years and now have amassed close to 17 million views of my travel-related videos. About a year ago, my first book, Getting Stitches on a Cruise Ship, was published and has been gaining popularity among travel fans. Thank you very much, all of you. However, before I started producing travel content full-time, I was a musical theater performer, and that is actually why I'm writing to you. I am no stranger to being on stage in front of a live audience. Throughout the 20-plus years I was active in my musical career, I started as a kid, I performed around the world in productions of Grease, Mamma Mia, Disney's Beauty and the Beast, and many more. Just a few weeks ago, I had my first ever live event hosted by the Margaritaville Resort in Orlando. It was a combination book signing, book reading, and live chat. After spending a few years working in front of the camera, I was finally back in front of a live audience and it felt amazing. With my life experience and love of travel and entertaining, I think I would be a great enrichment speaker. My travel stories are already a successful YouTube channel and a book, and I'm very familiar with life on board. However, other than the one live event, which was only partially filmed, and the thousands of musical performances I was a part of, I do not have much experience on stage as myself. I figured this automatically gets me cut from the list, but I wanted to write anyway because I am extremely interested in working together with celebrity to make it happen. I think I need a little more guidance before diving in. I would love to get on a call to talk about how I can best prepare myself and my talks in order to officially apply and book this gig. The programs I would like to offer would be, and right now I'm realizing, okay, I might have written too much, but I tend to go on. Did you notice? So these are the two talks that I suggested already. First one was the business of social media. And the way I like the elevator pitch I put here is an in-depth look at the multi-million-dollar industry of online content creation hosted by one of YouTube's original travel vloggers, Morgan O'Brien. More and more people are turning to online platforms for education and entertainment, from posting videos of themselves playing with Legos to self-producing entire Hollywood-style films. Content creators are also getting rich. By the way,
I'm not one of them.
Find out how the business side of social media works and learn how easy it is to get started. Then I wrote, the above talk could actually be a two-part series. First, the actual how-to of starting a YouTube channel, and then the second talk could be about how people turn that into a money-making machine. The second talk that I pitched here was getting stitches on a cruise ship and other fun ways to enjoy your vacation. And then the elevator pitch is basically the description from the back of the book. What happens when airport security is emptying your bag and you remember the knife hidden in the side pocket is not the worst thing you have stashed. Morgan O'Brien provides a backstage pass to his life, transitioning from professional musical theater performer to full-time travel vlogger. His hilarious and relatable stories take us all the way from the wide streets of New York City to the narrow streets of Jerusalem, onboard cruise ships, and other popular and not so popular tourist destinations in between. Along the way, we encounter cruise ship hospitals, bodyguards, Botox babes, and extremely challenging bathroom situations. Final paragraph, I just said, when would you have time to get on a call to discuss the possibilities? If a call isn't optimal, I will be in Miami from March 6th to the 9th and would love to meet in person. Very much looking forward to your response and discussing this further. So that mail was sent exactly a week ago, last Sunday, and I have yet to receive a response. And I don't know if it's because they just got so much response to their ad, or if I'm just so far out of what it is they're looking for that they wouldn't even bother writing back. But I worked in attractions, I've worked in musicals, I have help with casting processes, and even if somebody applies that you're not interested in, unless like thousands of people are applying, usually everybody at least gets a response. So it's interesting to me that it's been exactly a week and I still have gotten no response. But most of these talks that I've seen people do are usually like about the destinations. But they say there that they're looking for sports professionals and special interest people. So I know they're not just looking for people to talk about where the ship is going. But honest opinion, will not be offended. Do you think that I could do that? Do you think that would be interesting to sit in the theater and watch me talk about these subjects for probably like 35, 40 minutes. I think that's how long these talks are, right? And if you've been following me for a while, what do you think would be a good third chat that I could offer? Of course, I could just say, well, I'll talk about my experience performing in Broadway musicals all around the world, but I need to like pitch it. It needs to be specific. I can't just say, oh, and then as my third talk, I'm going to talk about Broadway musicals. It has to be like a theme. Does anybody have a suggestion? Who have been the exciting or interesting enrichment speakers that you've seen on cruises, and what do you think I can do to maybe be taken a little more seriously by celebrity, and maybe it would work on other cruise lines too. I don't know. Something very exciting for me, maybe a cool way to actually work on or for a cruise ship and get to see more ships and more cruise ports, which we would all benefit from. Let me know what you think about that in the comments below. And speaking of comments, now comes the time on Sunday Sofa Time where I comment on your comments live on air. In last week's Sunday Sofa Time, I talked about how on our recent flight back from Orlando to Amsterdam, I spent most of the flight puking my absolute guts out in the bathroom, and I realized that that was a video that not a lot of people wanted to watch, probably because of the subject and the details in it. And listen, I totally get it, but a lot of people that did watch it shared their comments and their getting sick on a plane or on a train or in a car stories. Thank you so much for sharing those. I'm not going to talk about those now because I don't want to gross anybody more out. I feel like if you watched the whole video and you felt fine enough to then comment or talk about your story, then yeah, good. We're just going to leave it there. So what I want to comment on is recently on Facebook and Instagram, I posted this picture of the aft pool, or one of the aft pools on Queen Mary 2. And I wrote, if I'm traveling and the ship or hotel I'm staying in/on has a pool, I almost always get into it at least once unless the weather is like really crappy. This is one of the aft pools on the gigantic Queen Mary 2, which is not a hotel and definitely not a cruise ship. And these comments are on that post. The first one is from Elaine Schvid Whiting. Elena writes, I always think about the people I see in the pool drinking all day long and never getting out of the pool to use the restrooms. And yeah, you know, it's not gonna make your day better thinking about that. But I know what you mean. Like, interesting that they've been in the pool for like 6 hours and have been drinking beer constantly. Yeah, you know what? I don't want to think about that. Raya Brown writes, I'm completely the opposite. Sure, I take swimwear, but it has to be extremely hot for me to go for a dip. I want my vacay to be dry as I work in a pool. So I get it. Yeah. I guess if I was in chlorinated water like every day, it probably would be different for me. I'm gonna do 2 more comments actually. First one is from Steve Post. Steve writes, what is it then? And I think Steve is referring to how I said that the Queen Mary 2 is not a cruise ship. And that's because I've referred to the Queen Mary 2 as a cruise ship in a few of my videos about the Queen Mary 2. And there is a large group of, I don't know, a Cunard fan community that are very adamant. I think they search the internet for videos about the Queen Mary 2 with the sole purpose of correcting people who call it a cruise ship, because in their eyes, it is an ocean liner. Interesting, if you go to the Cunard website, they also call it a ship. They don't say it's an ocean liner, they say it's a ship. And I think Cunard is a cruise company, isn't it? So put 2 and 2 together, but people are very adamant. The people who love the Queen Mary 2 will get very upset if you call it a cruise ship because it is, in their eyes, an ocean liner. How do you all feel about that? And final comment is from Vern DePriest. Hi, Vern. Vern writes, is that a Cunard ship is that a Cunard ship or a Cunard ship? Yeah, I know. Okay, so here in Germany, the U is always pronounced just U. There isn't like, in the German language, vowel sounds are always the same. There's no variations of U or O or A or whatever. It's always the same. And so Germans, when they read Cunard, they say Cunard, not Cunard. And that's another thing that I guess I got wrong and that a lot of people mentioned in my review videos of the ship. And the thing is, these are people who are like saying, all right, if he can't even pronounce the name of the ship right, then his entire opinion must be invalid. And I guess I disagree with that. That doesn't mean that I wasn't presenting useful and helpful and hopefully entertaining information. But yeah, I was calling it Cunard, and now I will always say Cunard, and I will call the Queen Mary 2 an ocean liner. So there you go. All right, everybody, I hope you had a great Valentine's Day. If you wanted to do something romantic, I hope you got to do that. And if you didn't, I hope you didn't. And if you're single, then hey, then I hope you enjoyed going out with your girlfriends. I'm Morgan from the Very Unofficial Travel Guides. See you soon.